Hi everyone, I'm Krika and this is Art Rendezvous. Happy New Year and welcome to our very first episode of 2021. This is a show where we invite exceptionally talented artists and talk all about art. So if you're an art lover, please like and subscribe our channel. Our first guest tonight is Anna Chapaholo. She's a body painting artist and has long list of accomplishments from around the world. So let's invite her on the show. Hi, Anna.
Hi,
Welcome to Art Rendezvous.
thank you for having me. Thank you.
Uh, so you are a full-time body painting artist now. What was your journey to become an artist? How did you start, and how long have you been doing this?
So I started around 5 years ago. This wasn't like supposed to be, wasn't in my plan. It just happened. I actually did like completely opposite, like studies at school and everything. It was like more on the economic side, not artistic side. And but at some point, I had a baby. I stayed home because I wanted to take care of him. And when I decided to go back to work, Italy, I'm from Italy, was in the middle of economic crisis, and basically there was no way I could find a job. So I started to, I saw like some requests for face paint for kids party, and I said, oh, maybe I should try. I was good in middle school, so I bought a few colors, a couple of brushes, and I started to try learn using YouTube videos, books, and everything I could find to learn. And after a year, I started to become like more comfortable in what I was doing, and like more doing like more elaborated design. So I decided to jump on a face paint competition, and I placed pretty well. But in that competition, I saw for the first time a body paint, and was like gave me goosebumps. Was amazing because body paint is a whole like especially for a competition, has like a 360 complete production. It's music, it's headpiece, it's story behind the body paint. It's a whole things. And so I decided, okay, I need to try that. And at the time, I hadn't any connection with models or friends to try actually body paint. So I just jumped on straight on a competition for body paint. Crazy idea, but okay, let's do that. So I tried, and I had so much fun and was like I love that. So from that moment, I just body painted as much as I could. And now it's what I do. Basically, I wouldn't go back anymore.
So what I'm thinking, the most nerve-wracking part of body painting is you're using someone else as a canvas. It's a live canvas, and it always changes. It's not always same. You don't know what it's going to be like for you to start with. So did you use yourself or your family members to get started, as for them to model for you?
Yeah, at the beginning, I used myself a lot, watching me on the mirror and trying to paint myself. It's very hard. And and my I had my boy. It was like at the time was around 10, but he hated being face paint. So there was no way he could like let him paint. And now my daughter is bigger. She's 9 years old. So now she loves that. So sometimes I use her like my model, and that is definitely much easier like doing on someone else. And especially now with COVID, that you can actually paint a lot, having someone in home, like in your house, that you can paint is definitely helpful. And yeah, this call is my daughter actually. And I tricked her for to do this face paint because I told her, okay, you want to model for me? And she said, oh yes, I want that. But I didn't tell her that this like face and this makeup was like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half makeup. So it was pretty long for 9 years old. So it was like definitely at the end, she hated me so much. I hate, but was worth it. She was happy at the end. She got some nice pictures. But yeah, I had to trick her.
That was gorgeous. Um,
Yeah.
Do you remember your first major body painting event or competition that you were part of?
Well, at the beginning, one of the first one that I remember that was very I remember a lot this body paint because I love that body paint, and it was fun because it was so also like at the beginning I didn't know how everything worked, and was a body paint about Africa I did in Italy. So basically, this body paint, the competition was about countries around the world. So each like contestant was like talking about a country or a place or a travel or something. So I decided to do Africa because like the vibrant colors, I just love the colors that you can find on African like paintings. So I decided to go with this, but the funny part is that I didn't know that when you go to the judges, you have to actually explain your body paint, like why you painted what is in front, why it is in the back, what like connection of each part. I just painted what I felt, and so when they asked me, "Oh, what did you paint?" I was like, uh, "It's Africa. Don't you see the colors? There is like some animals that reminds Africa, and everything. It's Africa." And then, well, can you tell more? So I was totally not prepared for that. Now I know that you have to explain and everything has to have like a specific meaning. So now I write down, I go like all prepared, but definitely at the beginning wasn't like I wasn't prepared like that. It was a learning experience, definitely.
So you have to tell a story with your art every time. You
Yes,
start
yeah.
the
When it's a competition, yes, usually there is a theme, and in each artist has their own interpretation. Sometimes there is a theme. You look at another artist, and say, "Oh, what? There's no meaning in that." And then when they told you their explanation, they say, "Oh, that's true." Like it's many point of view of a theme, and it's very interesting. So there is no right or wrong. It's just an interpretation of something. So
yeah.
that's the interesting part. You tell a story.
So what is the process of body painting? What is the preparation that models have to do before you can start painting
There,
over?
there is not a lot of preparation for a model or for a client. Usually the skin need to be very clean and with no body lotions, no moisturizer at all on either face or body, because usually the skin, if it's moisturized before or it's not very clean, like there's like skin oil, this like kind of in the middle with the color. So sometimes the colors becomes less vibrant or doesn't stick like it's supposed to be. So the model has just to come with a good shower and no moisturizer at all, and that's it. Not many preparation. And on my side, I usually talk with my client or my model, or if it's a competition, I prepare myself on what will be the design.
Mhm. But you don't, you have to probably just wait and see once the model is done that how it's going to look like. I mean, there is not much rehearsal for that.
Yeah, no, there is no no second chance. I usually sketch my designs before. So usually if it's a competition, I'm going more secure because I know the model, because I talk with her. I usually take her measurements. I know her, like I know her she's look like, her size, how tall she is, or the measure of her legs, or I don't know, all this information. I already know that because we it's a two-way connection when I prepare for a competition. Different stories when it's a client that calls you and asks you, "Oh, I want a body paint. Stop by tomorrow and let's do it." So in that case, sometimes I ask, "Oh, can you send me just a picture, like regular pictures, just to see, I don't know, more or less how you are you tall, like how's your shoulders, your legs, just a bit to have some informations." But yes, there is no like many tests that we can do. So usually when I when the client comes, I try to recreate what we agreed, but sometimes there's some changes to need to be done, because sometimes I don't know the how it looks like it's a bit different on the paper than can look on her body. So sometimes there is like last minute changes, definitely, to make it look better.
And so, usually, how long it takes for you to do the whole body paint on a marble?
So usually a full body paint. So competitions usually are like 6 hour, 6 hour and a half time, and this is the top that you usually have. And sometimes you're allowed also for a couple of hours or a few hours to have an assistant just to help you out with the like bigger parts. But usually a full body paint, like no less than 2 hours, 3 hours, full from front and back. But always depends on how many details like there need to be like on there. Like if of course if need you see portraits, this takes times. If it's just a base of color with some stripes, it's a different story. It always depends.
Is there a event or a competition that you have been part of? So you have been part of several, and you have been honored at several of those events. Is there one that sticks out most, and you remember it for some reason?
Well, yes. The one like is more like interesting and that for me is the one I did on South Korea. I was a very like last minute decision to go there. It's very far and it's a completely different culture. It was very like interesting and also was like on national television with millions of people connected there. It was a very, very, very nice experience. I will always remember that experience. That was definitely very different, like for many reasons. And also like the other one was definitely it's the World Body Paint competition they do every year in Austria. And last time I arrived fourth, and it was a huge achievement because I mean, there's artists all over the world there, and there are many artists, great artists. So I'm very honored with how I placed, and it was a hard work, a lot of months to prepare. So I'm happy with that.
The clip that we are watching here is from South Korea event.
No, that one is the model from Austria, last
Okay.
2018, last time I competed there.
Okay. And you have also worked on in done body painting for movies or music videos. Would you talk about that a bit?
Yes, I had the opportunity to work on a few music videos or parts for clips on a movie, and it's very interesting. Like it's a different, it's not like just modeling, it's a completely different world. It's you depends on what is the schedule of the video or the movie. And this specific was a very fun music video that they recorded like during the night and was done for Los Dias de los Muertos. So basically it was done in this church during the night. Part of this video clip was recorded also in the graveyard of the church. So it was very interesting. And also this dress was like in original vintage wedding dress. So we had to rip the bottom part to make like, used and broken dress. So it was a very fun experience to do. Definitely, that was very nice.
How is it different than just being in the events or competitions and working on the music video?
Well, for the competition you prepare, you know exactly what to expect because you have your theme, you have your design, you prepared your design in advance. You know exactly how will go everything. It's from the beginning to the end. You know your schedule. You already know how like to organize the timing for your work. When you work for music videos, movie, you have a time that it's supposed to be, and then always something happens. I did a job for a movie a few months ago, and so we did all the makeup, but I didn't know that like there were dancers actually in the movie. So they start to dance to practice, and they come out like all the paint, like the color was like coming off. because I didn't know that they were dancer actually. So we had to fix everything last minute, and it's crazy. And of course, you like maybe like some scenes took longer to record. So instead of finishing like at 10, I finished like at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And you don't know, you can't expect what will look like, because it's not just up to you. It's like all about all the crew, like all the people that work there, like actors or who is recording. Can be problems or during the process, and everything is delayed, and you never know. It's a surprise.
So in 2020, a lot of festivals and events, they were canceled. How was it for you?
Bad. Was very bad. I had my year, like I remember last year, like New Year's Eve of 2019, I was, oh, there's so many projects, so many things I want to do this year. This is my year. I have a lot of things in mind to do, and everything just disappeared. So at the beginning was shocking, like, oh, there's nothing happening anymore.
Yeah.
And then I just decided to use this time to do something that I wanted to always to learn. So for example, for a long time I wanted to take my makeup certification. It of course takes time and some effort, and I never had the time to do that. So definitely being at home, no having gigs or anything to do, give me this time that I needed. So I went to Dallas and I completed this classes for my certification. So now finally I got it, my makeup artist certification. So also for regular beauty makeup. And then I also finally started to work on digital art, starting to learn a bit how to draw portraits and work on digital. It's something that you can do also being at home without contact with people. So you try to learn when you can do your regular thing. So there's a good side in this old COVID moment.
Yeah, congratulations on that, and
Thank you.
wish you all the best for 2021. Hopefully, we
Hopefully,
get
finger
a lot
crossed.
more art. Yeah, a lot more art from you, and you get to go to a lot more festivals and events this year. So,
Yeah,
um,
hopefully everything will restart a bit better this year.
and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Our second guest tonight is B. Sean Cox. Sean loves to work with so many different mediums, and he has created several new art styles. So let's invite him on the show. Hi, Sean.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So welcome to Art Rendezvous.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Sean, you are now a full-time artist, and so what was your journey? Have you always been an artist, or how did you become an artist? Tell us about your journey.
This is a good question. I think inside I probably was always at least a part-time artist. I was very crafty and creative and made things growing up, and went to architecture school after high school, and I have a minor in art, did all the coursework for a minor in art, and then worked for an architect for a while, as an architect for I think roughly 2 years, and then decided to go to law school. So I went to law school, and then for 25, 26 years after that, I was a lawyer. But while I was being a lawyer, at night I would take night classes, very interested in the arts, to painting classes, ceramics, all kinds of coursework, and I guess in so many ways kept that spark alive. About 4 years ago, we had a litany of things happen in our lives. We had multiple people in our families pass, and I was the trustee for all of those estates, and there were a litany of things to deal with that. We also, my wife and I have one child, and at the time, when we step back, I guess with all of the death and kind of processing that, we stepped back and kind of reevaluated our lives. And we both of us were working full time at our respective careers, and we weren't seeing our kid. So we had some, it's as if life gives you some big clues every once in a while. We call it the nanny apocalypse, and we laugh about it now, but we had some unfortunate issues with our last nanny, and made the decision to have a nanny-free zone. And at the time, it made more sense, and I became the stay-at-home dad. And as part of that, I transitioned from the legal piece into doing more art type work. So over the last 2 years, I became more serious about it. I started just doing East and West, and being involved in small shows and applying and trying to really develop a practice. And then over the last, I guess, probably 3 years, it's become a practice. It has a life of its own. So it was kind of a roundabout way to get there, but that's where I am now. So that's what I'm doing.
It's not often we hear a lawyer has become a full-time artist.
It was interesting. I mean, even when I went back to law school, the idea that an architect would be in law school was an odd combo. I mean, most people are pre-law or English or political science. So I always knew I was on the fringe of what was expected. So I guess I'm still on the fringe, and now I'm playing in the fringe a little more seriously, which is an interesting game, very much so.
And with art, like, you have so many different mediums that you work with, you have different styles that you create. So let's first talk about your paintings.
Okay.
Tell us about that a bit.
Fair enough. The paintings, the painting is probably the oldest thing I've tried to work and create and craft, and I guess master some technique and a style. And I think over time that kind of, if you see something I've done, you're like, oh, that's one of his. You may not know it's mine, but the body of work definitely looks like me, or I've been told it looks like me. I started by recreating old black and white photographs, family photographs, yearbook photographs, and then colorizing them. So I was adding a new life to an old photograph. And that's how I kind of honed this portraiture. I always loved portraiture and the stories behind people. And once I went through all of my family, all of their, what I considered interesting poses and looks, I started sourcing from everywhere, internet, going to flea markets, any find I could get. And what happened after I went through that process and went through those series of works is I landed on cowboy stuff. And I think the cowboy iconography and the Western iconography, it very much relates to me personally, because I grew up ranching. We had cattle, we had sheep, we had horses. And my dad, that was his dream. And he grew up ranching. He was a school teacher for many years. And then as he retired from school teaching, he moved full-time to ranching. So that piece, I think, was a definite, that's a spark for the Western caricature. So what I've done is take this cowboy iconography and start, I guess, making it in a way my own. And what does it mean to me? And what associated with that iconography. And for me, it was always fascinating because ranching is not like Bonanza and Gunsmoke on Tumbleweeds and the TV shows of my youth, or even the TV shows now like Tombstone and Yellowstone, those type of television shows. It was hard work. I mean, it was a lot of very hard, sweaty work. And it was kind of funny. You would come home and watch these glossy westerns, and uh-oh, you shrunk. You're back. And so, in a way, you're seeing this iconography or Hollywood gloss version of a cowboy or of a Western mystique applied on top of, in front of you while you are living it, which is not even remotely glamorous. I mean, there's definitely a draw to working the land and understanding and working with animals. But it certainly isn't riding up to the saloon with your with your hat flying off and your bandana and shoot 'em up, bang, bang, bang. It's much more of a solitary lifestyle, and is interesting. So the work has evolved in that realm. And as I've worked over the years and lived in cities, I think the architecture background and the art background has infiltrated. It's become part of me and what I enjoy and what I like. So there's pop and there's geometric works and there's patterns. And what I'm doing is working all of these different narratives into hopefully something that intrigues others. So that's kind of where the cowboy game has been played. It's also, I mean, there's a lot of fabric involved and floral prints and retro. And in my life, I mean, I am essentially, my wife is the breadwinner in our home. She's a physician. So we've reversed roles from a traditional role. And in a lot of ways, my mom has also done the same thing. After my dad passed, she took over and she's the rancher lady. And I think that is infiltrating the work as well. So there's kind of traditional roles, gender roles, and then applied patterns and ideas on top of that.
That is so interesting. And
It's crazy. But I think it's one of those things that you step back and you're like, yeah, that's where it's coming from. You know, these little pieces. And I think that's where art does. In a way, when you let it, it comes from you. And hopefully that will resonate with an audience in some way. But even as quirky as, you know, I don't know how many people are like me. I mean, so few people from architecture went to law school. You know, you get those little things. But I think that I think a lot of people actually resonate some way with that Wild West idea and the quest for new, I guess, new worlds and conquering them that way. So
that's absolutely right. And talking to several different artists in last year, one thing is pretty obvious, like whatever they did in the past, that all that experience somehow influenced their art and brings out the unique style that they create. So
it is. I think it's what's very fascinating, and probably is on your part, to see how those little pieces end up manifesting in a tangible way, you know, visually, or in the narrative that is shown in the art. So it's very fascinating. There's probably a full-on psychology game that if you want to play, I can try. I don't want to be, you know, considered insane, but we'll roll with that accordingly.
So another your signature style that you have is creating a 3D art by folded paper, like folded origami. So
Correct.
tell us the inspiration for that and what all have you created so far for that?
Fair enough. The origami grew out of, I was working with collage work, and it's the same idea of pulling vintage ideas, things I learned, things from my past, with current things that align, in my mind anyway, different ideas, and trying to explain and create narratives. And I wanted to dimensionalize it, bring it into a 3D form. And I had the idea years ago. There is it's like a novelette, I think, and it's called The Size of Thoughts. And I don't remember who wrote it, but it stuck with me. It's one of those things you read and you're like, how clever is that? And the idea was that if you're going to do something and have a thought, well, should you think a big thought or a little thought? And for me, the idea of actually dimensionalizing that thought, what does a big thought look like, or a little thought, or what does a thought at all look like? And when you put it in a tangible form. And what I started doing, I love paper. I played with paper. I'm a note taker, a writer, a doodler. And the idea with paper started with books, because I had kind of transitioned in my life to more of Kindle. Everything was digital and you didn't really touch it. So I can read on the phone or I can read on my Kindle. And a lot of things are gone. You know, probably my kiddo probably wouldn't know what a phone book is. It's like, why would you have a phone book? And things like dictionaries. So the idea would be to take a page or a fragment of that archaic book, and well, and even in the legal world, we used to have these books and books and books you had to go through and search and quest for little ideas and find a precedent to make your arguments. So, and now you just Google it or run it through a search engine and it's like, okay, here are the 20 previous cases that have been cited on this, and you just move on. It doesn't take, it's not the same process. So the paper has kind of disappeared. And taking that paper, the idea would be that that paper has some type of residual mojo, for want of a better word. You know, is there a size or a thought of that? And what my concept would be that I would take that paper and I folded it into, the first thing I did was the Bible. And the idea would be to take a folded piece of that paper and that would represent faith or hope or dreams or belief. And building on that one little icon or idea, you can take that, and it would be that icon or that small object, and you can use that object to create bigger ideas, like a word becomes a paragraph, becomes a book, and it grows from there. So essentially each of these modules in my mind is a piece of an idea. Mm-hmm. And then as I weave them together, I can create more ideas, bigger, bolder ideas. So think of it as like a word. Each icon is like a word, and then you build a paragraph and it builds from there, and a bigger narrative. You add other books, other ideas into it, and hopefully it grows into something that is both visually interesting because it's structured and there's a pattern related to it, as well as conceptually interesting because there are preconceived notions about the paper that is used to create it.
So you are upcycling the paper into these new form, which people can relate to, but it has a new structure and new feel to it.
It does, and it's fascinating. I mean, I just started working with this idea of candy wrappers. I'm trying to explore different types of paper. And this idea of candy wrappers, and I'm calling them empty calories. So here's an example of it. I take a square, fold it into this, and this becomes a module. And these modules each link together, which is a really cool thing, and you keep linking. But you can build both 2D forms. I can show you. Here we go. You can build, flat 2D mats with them, or you can dimensionalize them and they will you can really build anything out of them. They're like bricks, little paper bricks that you can just keep building and building and building. And that's what I've been exploring probably for the last year and a half to 2 years. And it's kind of parallel, but the thing that's fascinating about these is they kind of become a life of their own. As you start building, they grow and grow and grow. The geometry links it together in a uniform way and tells you the things you can do. There's a structure behind it. And for me, conceptually, I like that idea. You can speak the language, you have to follow along the grammar and the syntax of using the words or the metaphor. And in the end, you create something. I think for me, visually, it's something that people will recognize, and then hopefully they'll start thinking more. Those, visually, like, oh, what's that? And they're like, oh, those are candy wrappers. Well, why did he do that? What's that about? And it kind of grows, and hopefully that creates some kind of either conversation internally or externally with the viewer or the collector or the buyer or the person just happens to walk by.
Yeah, those are very mesmerizing. Like, I don't know if we have more videos to show, but they look very mesmerizing. I was at one of the art gallery in Georgetown, and I'd seen one of the piece, and I was so intrigued by it. It was all interlocked pieces from a comic book. It was framed like an art, and I was drawn to it. And
wonderful.
Figure out where it came from. How did these fit together?
It is. The geometry piece of it, I know, is tied to my architecture background and linking these pieces. But for me, from a conceptual standpoint, these little dimensional ideas, loaded with whatever paper, the ideas that are associated with each person on the paper, I think it's an opportunity to kind of re-explore these old ideas. And the ideas, in my mind, the ideas really don't change over time. I don't think we create anything new or have any new epiphanies. We just slowly rationalize and understand them in a different way, or they come out in a different form. So I think honestly, we're constantly exploring the same ideas over and over. And that's just kind of how we roll. But
your art is very, very intellectual. And that's exactly what you expect from lawyer and architect to create.
I don't know the language than the paintings. So I do think what will occur is I tend to experiment and go down my rabbit holes, and these things, the paper, the geometry, the ideas, will start influencing some of the other work as well. So I have a bad habit of blending, or a good habit, I don't know. But I'll go down my rabbit hole and then I'll come back and bring something and add that to another exploration. And then it grows from there, which definitely keeps me busy and keeps me off the street and causing trouble or whatever I'm supposed to be doing.
And so last year, there were a lot of cancellations of events and exhibits and all. How was it for you last year?
Last year, it was initially very disappointing. I mean, one thing that we were most grateful that one of us was home because my daughter was full-time remote. And I had three pretty decent shows set up and ready to go. And all of it, oddly, the thing that I think was most painful was it was slowly canceled. It would be like, oh, now we'll make it through March. And then it's like, oh, March, April. No, then May. And then it's like, all the summer is gone. And it's like, okay, all of the rest of the year is gone.
Yeah.
And even now, it feels good in so many ways. I have a group show is up with some of my work up in Georgetown. And it almost felt, you're like, oh, I'm cheating, actually getting to put work up. But that goes through mid-February, but it's some of the paperwork is up in February. So Doherty was another show and it had a lot of the cowboy work in it. And that has been rescheduled for May. But what happened, and it was interesting, after East, I had, I guess my busyness kind of exploded. I had a lot of people and a lot of advisories, essentially art advisories, like contact me for commissions and more work, and then friends of friends. And I'm most grateful that this work that I had created for a show ended up, most of it being sold. and disperse. And I think for me, cathartic, it's very cathartic because if there's a space on the wall, I have a motivation to finish, create something new and finish it. And I like to think of each piece and each exploration as, like the next thing. So hopefully it's better, and such an odd term, is it better? I don't know, but it's I guess closer to what I'm trying to express. And there's some mastery in the skill of doing the technique, as well as honing the ideas and what I'm learning by talking with people like you and doing shows and meeting collectors and working with galleries and that kind of thing. So either I'm just getting old and cranking through stuff, or hopefully there's a development in the actual creation that lend me to the next thing that fascinates me and hopefully fascinates an audience along with me. So that would be wonderful.
So since you said you have a habit of blending and creating new styles, is there a new style emerging soon?
There is. The comic book, tying with the comic books, the idea of simplifying the icons to more comic book style. So I've been taking, I can show kind of an older work. Let's see, this is gonna be terrible if I do this, but I'm gonna try. Okay, so that's Dizzy. So that's a little bit of an older work, and it was incorporating these vintage shapes and merging them into two, re-looking at it, putting it on canvas, adding geometric elements, and hopefully reevaluating and giving you something to think about other than it's a fake cowboy, a 1950s fake cowboy playing a shiny guitar. So from that I moved, and I'm playing more with this idea of these cartoons, even more of an icon, and linking them together, looking at them in multiple ways, and then adding patterns and designs on top of, let's see if I can do it for you. Here we go. Like this. So the cowboys, I guess, have become somewhat more iconic and simplified, but the patterns and the dialogue that's going on with the fabric and the geometry has become more dynamic. So it's almost shifting away from the importance of, who is that? Was that your dad? It's hopefully moving into more of a concept of what are we talking about? What does it mean? What is the idea of a cowboy? Why is it, what is he doing? What is he thinking? And how does this relate in today's world?
Oh, cool.
Cool.
So I'm looking forward to 2021, and maybe when I talk to you in a couple of years, you'll probably have something absolutely different created.
If I'm still alive, it's highly, highly likely. I have a tendency to dabble in things, which is wonderful. I love the idea of how each media does it. Each media is in itself learning that technique, creates opportunities to apply these ideas and the things I'm thinking about, and how to make that media mine and incorporate it into this kind of narrative and metaphor that I'm creating. But yes, very much so.
Wonderful.
I hope you will come back. Either that, or if I've scared you too much, you can just
absolutely.
you and smile.
I'm so curious to see what your new styles now.
Oh, wonderful. Good, good.
So that was our show for tonight. If you enjoyed our show, please like and subscribe our channel and also share it with your friends and family. We'll be back soon with more art and fun stories. Until then, stay safe. Bye.